For this look at fan art, I'm looking at someone famous this time. Someone so famous and important, in fact, that getting a hold of her would not really be a realistic goal. So I'm just going to look at her work without contacting her. This is a look at the work of Donna Simpson, the creator of the comic strips Ozzie and Millie and the comic strip Phoebe and Her Unicorn, formerly known as Heavenly Nostrils. If you want to learn more about these comic strips, I suggest you check out the comic strip Critic. In my opinion, perhaps one of the best comic strip critic reviewers on the internet. One of her earliest works is this picture of a girl and a dragon sitting on a roof having sandwiches. You know, I see just by looking at this that these are the building blocks that sort of seed the ideas of Phoebe and Her Unicorn. Here's one from Ozzie and Millie. It shows the characters climbing up in a tree and just sort of hanging out and being friends and doing the kinds of things that kids do at that age, like climbing trees and going on little adventures. Definitely tells a carefree, fun-loving story straight out of childhood, only the characters happen to be furries instead of humans. What tells even more of a story, though, is this other picture of the pair sitting around a campfire roasting marshmallows, as Millie seems to be telling some kind of ghost story and Ozzie just seems to be soaking it in. You can almost feel the drama and build-up in Millie's story, and you feel like you're there at the campfire with them, and you can almost feel the bookends to the story too. The fact that the characters and their families and friends went on a camping trip, and they headed out on the road, and they reached the campsite, they set up their tents, they had a meal or something, it got dark, sat around telling campfire stories, and then after this moment they'll head back to their tent, they'll lay down, they'll talk as friends until they both fall asleep, and then they'll wake up and start a new day. Continue their camping trip in that pattern for a couple more days, and have all kinds of woodland adventures. Maybe even getting to climb that tree that we saw in the other image. It's at this point, as I look at the characters, I almost want to see what Donna Simpson would do if she was ever in a collaboration with Dr. Wolf. I think her art style and his character could work well together, and they could probably team up and come up with a really adorable story. I'll have to leave that comment on his channel sometime. Now here's the thing with Heavenly Nostrils, or Phoebe and Her Unicorn, whichever you prefer to call it. I'm going to go back and forth between the two names. The story's about a young girl who befriends a magical unicorn, and they go on a little slice of life adventures together. There's all kinds of drama, really great friendship, beautiful artwork, and some beautiful moments together. Now let's get into some of Donna's work. A lot of these, like this one of Pinkie Pie and Fluttershy being interviewed by one of Donna's pony OCs, are actually postcards that were available at some of the Brony conventions. They would, say a little bit of advertisement about which voice actors are appearing at the convention. Each of them, however, tells a unique funny little story interacting with the OC. Like this one that shows off the OC talking to Luna, trying to shout really loud to be heard from a distance, with Tabitha St. Germain's other characters standing in the background, but Luna being very prominent. I love how happy each of the characters looks. Even Luna has a very elegant look to her. And here we have a very humorous one of her interviewing Shining Armor, as he talks about the time that he threw his wife off the balcony so she could catch the crystal heart. And the reporter has the reaction of thinking that he's insane. Then we have a rather frustrating moment for the reporter OC as she tries to interview Big Mac, and of course he's not saying anything, and she's trying all the harder to get him to talk. And without Starlight Glimmer's magic to influence Big Mac into talking more frequently, all our reporter friend can do is scream at him until she's blue in the face, and he's just gonna stand there like always, saying nothing. And now we'll transition into some of the more highly detailed pony images, like this one of all of the ponies at a bookstore of some kind or another. And there is a ton of stuff going on. The reporter OC seems to be playing some kind of D&D game. It looks like Twilight Sparkle is reading some kind of comic book. I really can't make out exactly what's happening in those sequences. Spike has something kind of hand-drawn going on there. Lyra is looking at a copy of People, which is like, of course she would, because she has that whole hands obsession. Here's Dr. Hooves looking at a model of a Dalek. Gilda's reading something too. You can't quite tell what it is. There's a bona fide Superman, Batman, and Green Lantern on the shelf. And some kind of magazine depicting Rarity, and a sort of Aquaman style thing. There's a little bit of Phoebe and her unicorn in there too. And there's the Maniac going on there. There's a cover of the My Little Pony comic book. In the background, there's a couple more OCs going on, and both biceps in the one corner. There's a Maniac, a Daring Do, a Spider-Man, a Alizoda. There's absolutely a ton of stuff going on in this picture, and it just tells one huge story of all of the characters crowding a comic book shop and doing their own little nerdy habits, each one enjoying a different type of interest. And each of those interests appropriate to the characters, and there's just a ton of stuff going on. So many details. I absolutely love pictures like this where there's a lot to look at. Now, similar to the comic book store one, we have this one of the characters in a record store. And again, tons and tons of detail. There's a picture of this toy, there's a tip jar, there's Pinkie Pie playing a guitar, there's a couple of banned pony pun posters. Octavia's up there. Another Heavenly Nostrils posters up there. Vinyl scratches in the mix. Snails or snips? Snips or snails? I'm thinking snips. That's snips in the corner. rarities in there. Silver Spoon is here. Both Silver Spoon and Snips are without Diamond Tiara and Snails, which is very interesting. The CMC are here. Fluttershy's here wearing a pair of boots, and Big Mac is here as well, pulling out a record of his choice and dressed like a hipster or something, as is Spike. So let's get off of the Pony Convention advertisements and look at some of the regular pony stuff. Twilight and Spike. Twilight trying to fly with her new wings while Spike hangs on for dear life. It tells a very humorous story going on here, and I love the expressions on both characters. You can definitely see this kind of thing happening in early season 4 when the wings were still new, and Twilight still didn't know how to fly yet, and Spike's just barely hanging on, and he's not really sure if this is really safe or not. Now here's an interesting picture, Twilight and Spike, and drawn in the style of Phoebe and her unicorn, with Marigold's typical long legs, long paintbrush tail, and slightly more horse-like face. This is what My Little Pony would look like if Donna Simpson drew the series. And here's another one done in the Heavenly Nostrils style, this time with Luna and Celestia, once again with the long flowing paintbrush tails and the extra long legs and the more horse-like neck and face. It's interesting to see that with their tails done in Marigold's style, only the paintbrush end is flowing like the manes are, as opposed to My Little Pony where they have the more traditional horse tails and the whole fin flows. Another one that caught me by surprise is this Blue Pony OC. It looks almost like my OC, in fact. Same basic look and mane color, except for the addition of wings. My pony's an Earth Pony and this one's a Pegasus. Also the cutie mark is different, but this Pegasus has the flight goggles, which are a accessory that I gave my other OC, Time Jump. So it looks like the two sort of got blended together. These next two seem to go together to tell a story. Spike with the little stick holding the bag of his worldly possessions as he's off on some kind of exotic journey. Similar to what he did in Dragon Quest when he left Ponyville to head off on his own and discover his destiny. In one, we have a very cartoony picture of him getting directions from a seagull. And in the other, we have this very beautiful night sky picture. Spike seems to be looking up at the stars, and they remind him of Twilight Sparkle, and he seems to miss his home and miss his friends. He seems to be taking a moment to regret his journey and let himself become homesick before turning around and heading on. I'm not sure which came first in this story, the beach picture or the nighttime shot, but they definitely seem to go together in telling this story of Spike on a very long journey, one that gave him time to stop and reflect, as well as forced him to stop to get directions. I do love it when a picture tells a story, and I think that's the important thing to remember with these things, and Donna Simpson is a great storyteller. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed me sitting around looking at these pictures and saying my thoughts on them. Until next time, thank you for watching and good night.